Welcome to Blind Abilities. I'm Pete Lane. The Minnesota State Services for the Blind, like every other state rehab agency, is certainly not exempt from the impact of COVID-19.
We started working from home March 16th. We're probably going to be working from home for quite the foreseeable future.
And having to adapt to new and different needs of their clients.
Some students are attending classes in person, some are doing it online only, some are doing kind of a blended or mixed learning style.
While also adjusting to technical issues.
We have an internet bandwidth issue, especially in some rural areas.
And the need to build new skills to get by in the post-COVID era.
Yeah, it's the technology, but it's also having the technology skills to use the technology to be able to even do it, to be on a Zoom call and be on the internet and do whatever it is you need to do for class.
But it's always been a matter of adapting to changes for SSB, even outside of the COVID-19 pandemic.
People on average are probably using multiple platforms nowadays to do everything that they need to do. They've got a smartphone, they maybe have a tablet, they've got some kind of a computer.
They have always focused on making their clients more productive and competitive in whatever endeavor they targeted.
In the Windows side of things, I would argue that if you want to be productive, if you want to be competitive, knowing one screen reader probably isn't enough these days.
So the expert staff at SSB continues to provide up-to-date and state-of-the-art guidance and counseling for youth transitioning to the workplace and to those individuals who are new to the SSB services offerings.
If you're new to SSB or interested in learning more about what SSB does, what services they have that might be able to help, I would definitely recommend checking out the SSB website or calling the main number, 651-539-2300.
Today, Jeff is joined in the Blind Abilities studio by Jesse Anderson. Jesse describes the changes being made by the SSB staff in order to meet the changing needs of their clients. And now let's join Jeff and his guest, Jesse Anderson.
Welcome to Blind Abilities. I'm Jeff Thompson. Today in the studio, we have Jesse Anderson, and he is an accessibility specialist, part of the workforce development. Jesse, how you doing?
I'm doing pretty well.
During this pandemic, there's been a few changes and all that. How have you adjusted over there at State Services for the Blind?
Yeah, I got to admit, it's definitely been a little different this year, for sure, for everybody. We started working from home, I believe it was like March 16th. I came back on, it was like a Friday the 13th. Got back from an appointment on the road, got an email from management. They're like, yeah, by the way, we're going to be working from home for a little while. And, back then we're thinking, this is going to be a couple month thing, maybe by summer or something. But started working from home middle of March, and it's now December, and we're probably going to be working from home for quite the foreseeable future for the most part. Overall, I really like it. Actually, I like working from home. I can do pretty much most of my job quite easily with the technology that we have. That's a huge piece of it. Like completing technology assessments has been an interesting learning process because, you want to provide people with the information and kind of demonstration of the tools so they can kind of make an informed choice on what would work best for them. So, over the last few months, all of us technology specialists have been kind of trying different things and seeing what works and how to best kind of get the information across to people. And I think I'm finally starting to kind of get the hang of this.
There you go. So how has it changed for the customers? You deal a lot with the pre-ETs, which is pre-employment transition students out there, age 14 to 21. How has it changed for them?
Well, that's the interesting thing is depending on where you are in the state and what school district or what school you're in, some students are attending classes in person, some are doing it online only, some are doing kind of a blended or mixed learning style. And even this has sort of changed over time because as we've had this sort of uptake in cases here this fall around Thanksgiving for the pandemic, a lot more schools are closing, then you have to offer classes via distance. And it depends on what technology the students have access to, both mainstream technology, what assistive technology, but especially in greater Minnesota, It also really depends on where they live, because not just the technology itself, but, we have a kind of an internet bandwidth issue, especially in some rural areas. I know I worked with a student just the other day who, they have some technology, but their internet access really leaves a bit to be desired because they don't really have a lot of broadband access where they live, and they're trying to use, like a Verizon hotspot. It's things like that. It's the technology, but it's also having the technology skills to use the technology and having the internet access to be able to even do it, to be on a Zoom call and be on the internet and do whatever it is you need to do for class.
When you talk about assessments, explain that.
So a technology assessment or evaluation is we will meet with someone, usually in person, but now, of course, virtually, and we'll kind of find out what it is they're doing, whether they're in school, whether they are looking for work or in a job, and what is it that they're trying to do. And what are they having trouble with? What types of tasks do they need to be doing for school, for work, independence, combination of these things? And based on that, and based on their vision, we'll look at different technology options and technology training options so that they can ultimately get a job, go to school, get the training that they need, and then become employed in taxpayers like the rest of us. So if they're low vision, we'll go through computer technologies, screen magnification, screen reader, contrast, tools. Mobile is a big thing, iOS, Android, a lot of accessible apps that can do amazing things now. And the great thing is that a lot of the devices, be it your computer, PC, Mac, iOS device, Android device, there are a lot of accessibility features built into them already. So if you're low vision and need magnification, higher contrast, if you're totally blind and you take the device out of the box, well, you have built-in screen reader on pretty much everything. And then you have the apps on top of it, especially on mobile, things like Seeing AI or the Voice Dream Reader and Scanner apps. I love all three of those for all kinds of different reasons.
Yeah, it's amazing where things have come in the last 5 years. I mean, not only since the iPhone as a smart device, a lot of people have shifted over to that. Even where JAWS has come over the last few years to another level of accessibility. So it keeps on changing. Is it tough to stay on top of all that technology?
Oh, it certainly can be. People on average are probably using, multiple platforms nowadays to do everything that they need to do. They've got a smartphone, they maybe have a tablet, they've got some kind of a computer. And in the Windows side of things, I would argue that if you want to be productive, if you want to be competitive, knowing one screen reader probably isn't enough these days, especially now that the costs have come down. You do have even JAWS, you said things changed technology-wise, but even some of the pricing schemes have changed to where JAWS, Zoom Text, and Fusion are being offered in a subscription model. So instead of paying outright, thousands of dollars, you can get a license for like $100 a year and you're paying for it that way. And you have things like NVDA, the free open source screen reader. And, some of them, they work better in different places. And so I switch back and forth between multiple screen readers, even using narrator from time to time, because it's gotten better in some places as well. So it can be a little bit tricky to, remember all the commands and functions and features and wait, does this one support that? Or does this other screen reader do that? There's a lot to remember. Pretty much can't remember it all. So thank God for Google. It knows a lot of things.
So basically what you want to find out is what technology is going to make life better for that person.
Right. Which technology will make life better? What'll make it easier? But everything is really like where we are in workforce development. We're gearing everything towards employment. So, there are things that would be nice to have, like, oh yeah, it'd be cool to have like a whole smart home setup and smart speakers and accessible game consoles and things like that, which are out there. But we're looking at it more from what types of technology do you need to be independent so that you can get to school, get to your job, so that you can find a job, and then ultimately become competitively employed part-time, full-time, and keep that job.
Yeah, retention is an area people don't think about, but if someone's losing eyesight while working, keeping that job and getting assessed for it may give them the tools to allow them to continue on.
Absolutely. And we do have, like I said, we do kind of general technology assessments, but we do job site assessments as well, which are kind of a little bit different where, let's say that somebody gets a job offer and they're not quite sure if one of the systems or programs that they're using on the job site may be accessible to their screen magnification software or screen reader software. So we can work with the person, we can work with the employer and set up a time to go meet with the employee, the employer, and see what it is they're trying to access, what tools do they need to use, what assistive technology is the person using, and does everything work well together, and what can we do to try to make everything work better. So we go out to employers fairly often to do that kind of thing as well.
Now, when someone contacts State Services for the Blind of Minnesota here, they get an intake, and right after that, you're probably one of the first few people that they get to meet, to sit down with, virtually right now, as you said, and start the process. So people are kind of green. I can say that, right? They're new to the system. So you probably get them at a point where they don't know, or some of them may know what they want to do and all that, but they're at the beginning of their process.
Yeah, a lot of it is, especially in the pre-ets, the transition area, a lot of people are newer to the assistive technology. They may have had some access to it. They may have had some exposure to it through their school, either through like a vision teacher or caseworker, that kind of a thing. But, it just depends. Some of them are already, sometimes they figure it out on their own, or they've learned a little bit of it, like I said, through the school system, that kind of a thing. But we just kind of help them out. And like I said, once they go through intake, they're assigned a SSB counselor. Once they're assigned a counselor, the counselor will work with the student or the adult and figure out what types of services do they need, technology being one of them. So if they need adjustment to blindness skills training, independent living, orientation, mobility, technology training, or technology assessment, whatever it happens to be, that's where different staff come in, or different staff or even different contracted vendors come in to help get those services.
And your department, you guys go all the way from low vision to total blindness.
Yep. Low vision, total blindness, deaf blind.
Great. So how can someone get a hold of State Services for the Blind?
They can find us via telephone. We have our website. We have our workforce development area, senior services department, and communications center, which is really important, but especially for students getting their materials for high school or college. If you're new to SSB or interested in learning more about what SSB does, what services they have that might be able to help, I would definitely recommend checking out the SSB website or calling the main number, 651-539-2300.
There you go. Jesse, what advice would you give to a student out there that is thinking about what SSB can do for them?
SSB does have a lot of services that we can offer to a student or an adult. But if you are a student going through high school, thinking about college, or even in college, and maybe you were doing okay in in-person classes, but now that everything has kind of shifted more digitally, and if you're having some troubles accessing some materials or really using some of the advanced features of your assistive technology, have questions, want to be set up with training, because we do have a couple of on-staff technologists that do some technology training. And we also have, like I said, contracted vendors throughout the state that work with people one-on-one for technology training. And that could be anything from, PC, Mac, iOS, Android, whatever it happens to be.
So there's something for everyone. Jesse, I want to thank you very much for coming on to Blind Abilities and give a little description of what is happening at SSB. The lights are on, the doors are open virtually, so give them a call. Thanks,
Indeed.
Jesse. Yeah.
Thank you. No problem.
We'd like to thank Jesse Anderson for joining us on the podcast today and for sharing his update on what Minnesota State Services for the Blind is doing to adjust to the changing needs of their clients, both in the COVID-19 pandemic era and otherwise. And from all of us here at Blind Abilities, through these challenging times, to you, your family, and friends, stay well, stay informed, and stay strong. Thank you so much for listening, and have a great day.
When we share
what we see
through each other's eyes, we can then begin to bridge the gap between
the limited expectations and the realities
of blind abilities.
The realities of blind abilities.
Blind abilities.
For more podcasts with a blindness perspective, check us out on the web at www.blindabilities.com, on Twitter at blindabilities. Download our app from the App Store, blindabilities, that's 2 words, or send us an email at info@blindabilities.com. Thanks for listening.